Okay, so it was time for another Pwnisher challenge. This time the topic of the challenge was the big boss fight, but there was a problem. Actually, I was a little bit late to the party because I stuck in a few other projects from work, so I had like 10 days left to enter this challenge, and this is really not enough time to create something complex like this. But I remember myself the most important fundamental that I've ever learned since I'm doing film, and this is the triangle of filmmaking. If you're not familiar with this one, it's pretty simple. So the rule of thumb is take 2, you never get 3. And the idea here is it's pretty hard to make a great product with no budget in like 2 days. I think this is clear, right? But because I was running out of time and still wanted something that looks good, I realized that I need to invest a little bit. And this is where this very cool CGTrader model comes into place. And honestly, a model like this would cost me 2 to 3 weeks, and even then it's pretty hard to reach this state of high quality product. So this was worth the money. And what is fighting dragons? Of course, knights. And luckily enough, Mixamo has some great characters that will do the job in this case. And some awesome animations that will help to get the mocap into place. And with these two assets, the big boss and the hero, we got the most important assets for this composition. So let's put it all together into Blender, and for the slow motion I did a pretty dirty and cheap trick, which was just finding the sweet spot where the slow motion ends, took all the keyframes from the knight in this case, and expand the other keyframes with the scaling function inside of the timeline to get kind of like the sense of a slow motion feeling. And actually I did the same thing for the dragon and adjust a little bit of the animation that was there, and then I had something like this. And even though this looks cheesy, when you have to sculpt this, you have to retopo this, you have to rig it, you have to weight paint it, and you have to animate this, skipping all of these steps and really just get to the point where I can start building the environment is pretty cool and really saves a lot of time when you're on a tight time schedule. Talking about the environment, my biggest inspiration was the film Rain of Fire, which is from the year 2002, I guess. I really like the color and this contrast between this blue hazy atmosphere and the light orange color of the fire. So this was kind of like my starting point to create an environment. And with the triangle of filmmaking in mind, I decided to kit bash the environment by using different resources, for example Sketchfab, where I found these cool church ruins, and this amazing 3D scan of an old backside building in Italy, and this very cool kit bash collection that I found on ArtStation. All the credits belong to Alex P. And then it just took me like 4 iterations to create a cool environment, adding in a little bit of foreground elements to create more depth, and of course add in more actors, in this case an archer and a second knight that is hit by the fire. And with this approach I was able to create this result within 3 days, which is amazing. And I changed one very important aspect that I completely missed out the last 2 challenges by Pwnisher, and this is a story. And this time I've added in a simple treasure chest with a little bit of gold around it and put it beneath the dragon to tell the viewer that the dragon is protecting this treasure chest, and the knights of course wanted this gold. And because of this I've added in a lot of wounds to the dragon and some scars of course to really tell that this dragon has kind of like a backstory. And then inside of Blender once again added in a lot of spears and arrows to tell that there was a fight going on between the knights and the dragon. And for me this adds in one additional layer to the whole composition and gives it a little bit more interest to the overall picture. And then there was time for the simulation part. And don't get me wrong, simulation is always a hassle for me, but with Ambergen really this was kind of like fun and a breeze. And I don't have any affiliation with them, I just use the free months that you get with the competition and just wrap my head around the software, just watch a few tutorials, and then I was able to create really cool fire simulations within no time. So the most important things was adding some force, for example for the hand torch fire that the knight is holding in his hand, and of course the dragon fire. So here I've added in a collider, in this case the pillar of the composition, to block the fire when the knight is jumping in the secure area where the dragon fire is not hitting him. And within 2 or 3 days I was able to simulate different fire resources, the ground fire, the wall fire, the torch fire in the knight's hand, and of course the dragon fire, and rendered out each element and used the hold out function inside of Blender to render every element individually and composite it inside of After Effects. Here I just added in some heat distortion, once again by Video Copilot, to get this result. So here's the breakdown of the environment, adding the background, the midground and the foreground elements, adding the actors and the dragon in, just add in the fire simulation and finally put a little grade on all of this, denoise the footage, and then you end up with this. Okay, so that was a fun one and it was pretty easy too. So thanks for watching and see you next time.